Okay, guys, the H1B Guy here, and today the H1B Guy live Stamp It Out 6 Q&A, where we're going to cover immigration, medical device innovation, and more than being just an engineer. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. It helps me to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services. If I can provide you peace of mind by helping you bridge the gap between your employer and your immigration attorney, please reach out. I'd love to hear how I can help you. I also wanted to mention, if you haven't already, please give this video a like. As we are live and streaming live here, it helps with the analytics as it relates to YouTube and getting this content promoted over the next hour or so. Today's live stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001. So today, it is my privilege to introduce to you Deepu Asok. Deepu discovered my channel during a Stamp It Out live stream here on YouTube and reached out to me on Twitter. And once we connected, I realized how brilliant he is. And with really some effort and some prodding and some persuading, I finally got him to come on here today. I wanted to mention, if you guys have any questions for Deepu, let's post those in the chat, and we'll get to those after we go through our Q&A here. We've had a lot of questions during the Stamp It Out here recently, so really looking forward to doing the Q&A here with Deepu. So without any further ado, Deepu, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Robert.
Awesome.
Well,
thank you for joining us. And I believe you're just outside of Chicago. I know it's really cold here in Atlanta today for us, like 40 degrees. So what's the temperature outside for you guys today?
Yeah, I think it's like the high 30s here. So
pretty close. Which is warm for December in Chicago, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, you know, really the first question that we always start out with here on the Stamp It Out is really straightforward, and that's tell me your story. You know, where are you originally from? How did you come to the U.S.?
Sure. So I grew up in a state called Kerala. It's in the southern part of India. And I did my undergrad in mechanical engineering in Kerala, in Trivandrum. So after I did my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, so I basically, I was looking for different options, and my uncle actually lives in the US. So he lives in a state called Kansas. And basically, he told me about the programs that are, the great programs here. And I had some ideas about coming for grad school here. And my cousin, she also recently got married and she moved to Seattle. So, it was a very attractive option for me. So I did my GRE at SAM, and I got admitted to Kansas State University for the Master's in Mechanical Engineering program. And I came to the US in 2011. If I recollect right, it was 2011 July when I landed in USA. So that was my, the first time I came, or for the first time I actually went to another country. That was the first time. And I did my master's in K-State. It was a great experience for me. And after graduating in 2013, I actually found a job at Baxter Healthcare. It's actually one of the largest manufacturers of dialysis-related medical devices in the world. So it was a great opportunity for me. And after I worked at Baxter for close to 3 years, and then I joined Pfizer. I think everyone will know Pfizer now because of the whole vaccine thing going on. Yeah, right. So I had the good opportunity to join Pfizer's medical device product development team. So we have a unit that is based in Lake Forest, Illinois, and it's one of the two main divisions that's working on medical devices. Product development mainly. So R&D, product development for medical devices. Yeah. So that's my story. I live in Chicago, actually a northwest suburb of Chicago. It's a suburb called Grace Lake. It's like roughly 40 minutes north from Chicago. Married. I have a kid who is daughter who is 20 months old. So life's going good. Yeah.
Definitely keeping you on your toes and into everything,
Yeah, I
right?
know. Yep.
That's so funny. Well, if you could go back and tell yourself, one piece of advice or maybe a couple piece of advice before you got on the plane, the proverbial plane to come to the
Right.
US, back in 2011, what are a couple things that you would tell yourself?
Sure. I think the main thing when you come to like a new country is having the right contacts and having or being plugged into the right network. Because like it's really a different world, especially when you come from a place like India. Like the systems and the processes, everything is totally different. So it really helps if you have people who already know the process who can guide you through it, right? So one thing I would advise like the past self or like any future students who are planning to come to USA would be to directly reach out and contact the student associations. So there are almost all the universities who have like an Asian population or like an Indian population, a student body. They'll have an association and they would have Facebook groups, or they would now have like Twitter accounts. So you can reach out to them and like ask them what are the things that I need to bring, or like what are the, say for example, like textbooks. Like textbooks are very expensive here. I had no clue when I came here that textbooks were so expensive. So if I had known that, I would have, bought some textbooks from India.
Mm-hmm.
So like generally, and on a basic level, reach out to people who are already students in the universities that you plan to attend, and ask them about the opportunities for jobs after graduating, and what are the kind of internship opportunities that you can pursue. And another advice that I would give was like, so I basically came to Kansas State University because like my uncle was there and he was very big fan of K State, and he recommended me to join K State, right? So that it was like a very easy decision for me.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I felt was that I had much less exposure being in more like a Midwestern university that is not very well connected to the tech hubs.
Mm-hmm.
So being in a city like say Chicago or California or like New York or even New Jersey, you have more proximity to the tech hubs in USA. And what that does is it gives you more opportunity to maybe get an internship at a company, like even when you're working. Whereas if, like in a place like Kansas, you're in the middle of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're in a computer science major, maybe that works out because computer science companies are almost everywhere. Um, but if you're in a different major, like for myself, mechanical engineering, like the number of opportunities for say internships or co-ops was like very limited. And so that's I think that's one advice that I would give myself if I could go back in time.
It's interesting because I would say you talked about some of the major metros, but throwing in cities like Miami, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth area,
Yeah.
where you've seen this sort of migration to these coastal and more southern climates, right? And
Right.
and you talk about the universities and those pipelines in those major metro cities. That's a really interesting point because, I think when you told me you originally had gone to Kansas State, I was like, well, Overland Park is really the only sort
Yeah.
of tech hub that's in that area. And it's very heavy on the telecommunications side in terms of the roles that you go. Cause you were telling me about, kind of why you decided to go to Kansas State and your degree. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because I'm always curious, is what was it like for you stepping into the culture of Manhattan, Kansas? I mean, I would imagine that was a bit of an adjustment for you initially, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole US system was like a different, like eye-opening thing for me, right? Like I was suddenly seeing that there are so many opportunities that, I never knew even existed when I was in India, right? There are so many things to see. There are so many ways to do things, so many different, ways of learning, ways of working. So it was all like a new experience for me. Um, but at the same time, Manhattan, Kansas was interesting because it is this tiny college town, and there is nothing else other than the university and a bunch of retail stores that's
Mm-hmm.
surrounding it. So it was sort of like a very calm, college town. So it gave me some time to kind of adjust to the because I think I came like 1 month before the classes started, so I had
Hmm.
some time to like explore the locality, and I meet the other professors and meet other students. So it was not that bad, but
Hmm.
at the same time, like I mentioned, like it was a big shift to adjust.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I can only imagine. I mean, I think that's one of the things very rarely it gets talked about is that adjustment. And
Yeah,
I think when you look at a lot of sort of the conceptions of going to a school in a large metro area, that adjustment's probably easier than a small college town with a very large university, right?
right, right. So
Um,
you're in many ways you're cut off from the like many good networks. So in terms of networking, it's very limited. So you better get along with whoever is already there, right? Because it's just like a small network, and your
mhm,
options are kind of limited. So you have to really plug into the system and be really engaged with the community to, really grow your roots and find good
mhm,
opportunities. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask anyone who's out there watching, if you haven't already, please like this video. If you have questions for Deepu and I, post them in the chat. We'll get to them at the end of our Q&A here. But you mentioned something that was interesting to me earlier when you're talking about going to work at Baxter, and a lot of what we've been talking about here on this channel, and a lot of people that I've been meeting and getting introduced to here recently, we've been talking about this cycle, right? Which is the master's degree program, the
Hmm.
OPT, EAD, OPT, EAD, STEM. And I think I would imagine you going to work for Baxter on an OPT, EAD, STEM. Where was Baxter located? Was it in Illinois as well, or are they somewhere
Yeah, it
else?
was in Illinois as well. It's a
Yeah.
place called
So
Round Lake. Yeah.
yes, so you go to work there as an OPT. They sponsor your H1B. I'm assuming. Did Baxter do it, or were you working for a consultancy that did it, and then you went to work for Pfizer? Or is that
Yeah.
kind of the
So
line how that worked for you?
right. So Baxter at that point, and still they do, they have a lot of contracting that they bring in. So
Mhm.
I was actually part of the consulting firm, and I was actually going into Baxter as a contract staff.
Mhm.
Um, and they have like a very limited, like very senior engineers, and they
Mhm.
have a lot of work that they get done through contracting stuff.
Yeah.
So I was part of that wave, and they still
Mhm.
continue to do that. But I was fortunate that when I moved to Pfizer, Pfizer sponsored my H1B visa.
Okay.
Um, but at the same time, I think I mentioned to you before, my green card sponsorship was approved with the consulting firm.
Yeah.
And my I-140 is what I use for my, H-1B renewals with Pfizer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that kind of leads me into, so you're working for Pfizer, who's been all over the news, and I've seen some of your shares on LinkedIn, and how just so excited to be associated with a company like
Yeah, it is.
Pfizer doing the work that they're doing. Can you tell you know a lot of the folks out there, when we talk about a medical device engineer, or really a medical engineer in general, what does that mean? What is it that you do day in and day out?
Right. So there are different kind of medical devices. When you speak of medical devices broadly, so they could be like surgical instruments, or it could be like robots that are used for surgery, or in my case, it's more like drug delivery devices. So in Pfizer's portfolio, we have all these amazing drugs and different drugs like biologics or small molecules. We have all this portfolio of drugs, but you need a way to deliver these drugs safely and effectively. So that's where, I mean, everyone knows what a syringe is. Like you go to get a vaccine or like a flu shot. It's mostly it's administered through like a pre-filled syringe. So that's one of the products that we work on. And then the other products are mostly like pen injectors, auto injectors, wearable injectors. These are all like drug delivery systems. And the work comes down to taking a concept of a delivery system
Hmm.
and taking it all the way through research and development, prototyping, you do the testing, you develop the device. I mean, there is a lot of rigorous scientific R&D and testing that goes into making sure that the device has to perform safely and effectively along with the drug. Because if the device is not working, then ultimately you miss the dose, right?
Hmm.
So the device is an integral part of the drug delivery system as a whole. So my day-to-day job is actually like the real product development and the testing and making sure that the device is functional, safe, and effective. And then we also work with the manufacturing teams, right? So once we finish the R&D, once we complete the development and verify the design, and we gather the data and prove that the device is safe and effective, then it comes to the time when you have to transfer this for large scale production to the manufacturing site. So then the issue becomes like, how do you scale this process? What are the challenges? What are the issues when you scale it? So we closely work with manufacturing too, to make sure that, it is one thing to say that the device is good and safe and effective, and it's another thing to say that we can confidently manufacture this at scale.
Mm.
So these are all different technical challenges that we face to make sure that we can deliver a product that is safe and effective for the patients. Yeah.
Man, that's so cool. You forget that there's technology behind an injectable device,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think, when you start to look at innovation, and you and I had this conversation about medical engineering, and specifically, innovation in those devices. It's really cool and fascinating work, and I think it shows your passion behind it. How did you decide that this was the path that you wanted to go down?
So it was partly luck, because I was, obviously after graduating on my OPT, I was looking for all the different options, but this was something that was very interesting to me, like this opportunity when I first saw that it's like medical device product development, and then you get to work with all these cool people. So it was like a really exciting opportunity for me, that the work that you do is not really just something that it's not like a consumer product. It's actually literally like saving people's lives, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that was like one of the attractions that I had to the job, because it's like an inherently fulfilling career path.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so biomedical engineers and mechanical engineers, I would highly recommend, if you are interested in the side of medical devices. It's really a rewarding career and like a great opportunity to look into.
That's really cool. I think to see even products that you've worked on go to market, and
Yeah.
you think about what's kind of the evolution of a career like that, and you and I've kind of talked about that. You're an engineer, then eventually, you have some sort of responsibility over a product, right? And
Right.
you
Right.
see it from, proof of concept, to go to market, right? And kind of the
Right.
strategies around that, and how challenging that is in the medical space
Right.
is so untalked about, right? I mean, I think to me, a lot of this channel, and a lot of what we talk about here is STEM focused. But
Hmm.
even within STEM, I'm very much technology focused, right?
Right. Right.
And then I look at where you are, and it's kind of the hybrid of the science, the technology, and the engineering, right? And
Right.
I would imagine there's mathematics involved in it as
Yeah.
well. So, when you think about true innovation on devices, right? And you can put that even at a larger scale than just medical, how that encompasses the entire STEM umbrella. And I think as we've seen the shift as specialty occupation, the definition of that starts to move, right? Well, what better way to keep yourself completely unique, right? Than
Right.
than
Right.
looking at spaces where there's innovation behind it that encompasses sort of all four of the STEM components. And I think the hard part with that, though, and this isn't something that you and I have talked about, is where are the universities that are graduating bachelors and masters in the medical device engineering field, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a degree I've ever seen as a recruiter. And so, when you look at, okay, comparing the degree now, a mechanical engineering degree is part of the specialty occupation for a medical device. It's pretty interesting when you look at the full circle of that. I don't know. Those are just some thoughts I had around what you
Yeah.
do and how unique
Yeah.
it is.
Right. So when we hire like new employees, we mostly look for like mechanical engineering or biomedical engineering graduates. So that's sort of our key, the applications that we receive mostly, and most of them have some kind of previous experience in the industry. It may not be directly related to, say, device. So some of them may be working in like a drug side or something, but they understand the product development process. or some of them may be freshers, but they have a PhD degree, right? In which they were doing some kind of biomedical related research, like working on an artificial kidney or something like that. So they have like real scientific background and knowledge of the scientific method, and they can be like quickly trained um, to adapt to the job description that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like really having these core foundations of engineering and core foundations of science. And then once you come on, most of the medical device industry is heavily regulated, so everything works based on a process oriented approach, right? So you won't be doing anything randomly. Like every single aspect of your work has been sketched out and detailed and procedured, so you
Mm-hmm.
have to follow those procedures and you will have a good output, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like you have a scientific method to do proper scientific research, you have a
Mm-hmm.
good engineering process method to do good engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in terms of like differentiating yourself, I think it's really a unique opportunity to differentiate yourself. If you have a biomedical degree, then it's like super easy to connect these two professions, right? Mechanical engineering, it's kind of a, you have to do more explaining how it is like unique, and
Mm-hmm.
why you are the best person for this job. But once you come in, and if you have at least some preliminary experience during your OPT period, then you can use that experience to sort of like support, because a lot of the work that we do is like fundamental physics and like fluid dynamics and stuff. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really like core mechanical engineering, if you ask
Mm-hmm.
me. Yeah.
It's very cool, and I was really interested in that specifically because it's so complex, but and innovative, right? And it's something that to me just it's a difference in society. But that's not all you do, right? I mean, you also
Yeah.
operate the website, the
Hmm.
visualwisdom.substack.com,
Yeah.
another Twitter profile, the at visualwisdom108,
Yes.
and as well as another Twitter profile, the at your first 1000. You have a
Right.
newsletter. You have your own website where you openly invite individuals that would like to have a creative conversation with you, to set up time to chat. And I just start to look at that and go, man, here I am trying to figure out where I have enough time in my day just to push this platform further, and here you are with multiple Twitter avenues, innovative device engineer. Where do you find the time to do all of this?
Yeah, so these are all like my creative projects that I have, like a hobby, or like a hobby, right? So it was really, I think I started writing the newsletter like early 2020, like right around when the lockdown started, and I love drawing and I love reading, so I sort of combined those two activities and tried to put whatever I learned into good, like simple visuals, and started posting on Twitter, and that really caught on and people seemed to like it, so I started doing more. I started writing a newsletter around it because the visuals give you the idea, but the article kind of gives you the context of the idea, and
Mm-hmm.
more research or more stories around the idea. And the newsletter has, I think we crossed 500 subscribers yesterday for the newsletter. So that's
Oh,
just
that's
like,
awesome.
yeah,
Congrats. That's
yeah,
not an
thanks.
easy accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah. It
I
was,
don't know if I have any on the H1BGuy.com, maybe one or two. Uh,
yeah.
they're not easy to get folks to subscribe to your website.
Yeah, yeah. Getting people to sign up on an email list is challenging.
Yeah,
It's not as
for
easy
sure.
as the regular social media following, because it's
Mhm.
you're asking for some extra commitment of their own, personal space
Mhm.
and the inbox.
Yep.
So that's been fun, and again, like you said, I had this thing on my website for book a curiosity chat with me,
Yeah.
and that was a real learning experience, and I got to meet so many creative professionals and artists and designers and engineers,
Mhm.
like through Twitter, and I was able to have all these amazing conversations. And especially in a time like this when everything is locked up and you're going through this phase, it really helps you be less lonely and actually plug into the network and keep your mind active and keep your hearts
Mhm.
active. So yeah, so these creative projects have been sort of a way for me to keep my juices flowing and stay active.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you nailed it right with visuals. There's engagement, and I
Yeah,
think for what I do, I look at it like my opinion is engagement. Some love
yeah,
it, some hate it, and I think that's why I love Twitter as a platform.
right.
And I think if you look at my Twitter timeline right now, I mean, it's full of HR 1044.
Mm,
You and I have had kind of the discussion offline about what it's like to be in the backlog,
yeah,
and that there's been such an emotional roller coaster around S386. And, last Wednesday, I did another Stamp It Out with Dr. Oscar Cabresis, where we talked about, I didn't think anything was going to happen. He threw a support of it. And then at 10:45, or excuse me, 5:45 p.m. last Wednesday, it got called to the House floor and went through UC with some amendments, which has created this entirely other issue. And so, you start to look at, well, what does all of this mean, right? And it's really interesting because the time is not on our side. What are your thoughts around this backlog that's been created in employment based preferences? Is do you are you still holding out hope over the next couple of days that something could happen here in the House? What are your thoughts around this situation right now?
yeah. I mean, it's really disappointing that such an amazing opportunity for the skilled immigrants is really like being put on hold. So I'm optimistic that hopefully something will happen, and we'll get some positive news soon. But at the same time, the green card backlog itself has been like a huge disappointment, and it's not just bad for the immigrants or the skilled immigrants that's coming into the country. I believe that it's really bad for the economy as well, in the
Mm-hmm.
short term and the long term. Because if you look at the U.S. economy, it's the businesses and the great companies that we have here. Majority of them have been like started by immigrants, by skilled immigrants. And like if you look at the tech industry, there is a huge shortage of skilled labor that they need to fill the labor gap that they have for filling these tech industries. Um, and another issue is that like the more we put these people on hold, what are we trying to achieve, right? Because anyways these people are legally within the country, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
staying in the country, like paying all the taxes, they're paying social security, and they're contributing to the positively to the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And asking them to wait for 20 so years to get a green card is just an unfair system,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really blocking amazing entrepreneurs and inventors and scientists from pursuing great things. And I personally know many entrepreneurs who really they want to start companies, and they have ideas, and they even have some investors who are
Mm-hmm.
willing to invest in them. But unfortunately, because of the green card backlog and all these things, they're unable to work independently, or like startup on their own, do a startup on their own. So as a whole, I think that the events have been unfortunate, and there are, as you know, there is a lot of politics also happening
Absolutely.
behind this. So it makes matters worse. But at the same time, if you look at from a purely economic perspective, and the economists, like the great economists, like Milton Friedman and like Thomas Sowell. I mean, if you look at all these people, I mean, they have been like screaming for like decades that
Mm-hmm.
skilled immigration is a positive sum game, because you are not. It's not like you have 100 skilled immigrants and you're taking away the jobs of another 100 people, because these 100 people, even if five of them start new companies, then the overall pool of jobs increases, and it's a positive sum game for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And we have data showing that that is the case, that majority, a good amount of the skilled immigrants that are here, they are entrepreneurial, and they want to do something on their own, even if it's a small scale. Maybe they're employing 10 people, but it's actually like increasing the size of the pie.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, like I said, it's unfortunate, but hopefully, the 1044 bill will make some changes. And what
Mm-hmm.
are your thoughts on this? What's the reason? What do you think? will be the outcome of this, or what's the
Yeah,
probability
I
of
mean,
outcome?
I'll tell you, the chat is full of questions about it
Yeah,
right now.
right.
If you're okay with me punting on that and
Yeah,
getting
sure.
that in the chat, just because there's literally 10
Yeah,
questions
sure.
on
I
this
think
in the
other
chat.
people are like curious about that.
I what I'd like to do is kind of finish up our Q&A here, because I got a couple other things I
Yeah,
really
sure,
want to ask you,
sure.
and then we can designate 20 minutes to this. I think there's a comment about spiraling out of control based on a tweet yesterday. Ishan, I see it. We're going to talk about it. I promise you. You've been hanging in there. I definitely am going to talk about this. I want Deepu to get to see these questions too.
Yeah,
You People love predictions here, and I hate to pivot on a prediction question,
yeah.
but I will tell you, a lot of my followers and subscribers that I've picked up are because I'm willing to go out and make predictions, and it's honestly because I have a lot. When you're making guesses, you're going to be wrong.
Right.
But I think we saw President-elect now confirmed, soon to be the 46th president, Joe Biden. This week through the Electoral College vote. Uh, do you have any predictions around the H1B visa or employment-based preferences? Anything over the next 4 years that you think we might see that could change now that we know that this transition is going to happen?
I'm definitely more optimistic with President-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris coming into the next rule here. Because I think Kamala Harris, if I'm right, she was one of the sponsors of the S386 bill, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm definitely optimistic that we can have some kind of positive direction in terms of the green card backlog or the H1B bill amendments in the next 4 years, because I think it's going to be crucial that they actually do something in these 4 years rather than postponing this, because we don't know what's going to happen after that 4 years, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's like a good window of opportunity if really they're serious about making amendments without playing too much politics. I think
Hmm.
this is the right time to do it, and I really hope, and I think like they know it as well, that a lot of people are actually expecting this from them.
Hmm.
And I feel that they would. I don't know how that's going to happen. Like, what's the actual mechanism? Whether that's through like a like a bill, like the bill that we have right now, or through some executive action. I'm not sure how that would happen,
Hmm.
but we have to. I'm optimistic that something will happen, and that's my prediction that
Yeah.
something positive will come in the next 4 years. At a minimum, they would remove the backlog, right? At a minimum.
I
Yeah,
think the backlog and the country caps, that's been something
yeah,
that's been so hotly debated. And,
yeah.
the Trump administration, as I've talked about a lot, over 400 executive actions towards immigration, basically reshaping our immigration system through executive actions.
Right.
The Biden
And
administration
there was also this move. I think that one of the courts threw that out, that they were actually trying to increase the proposed wages for H1B, right?
that's not done yet. Just
Oh,
for
okay.
everyone. Well, listen, what's happened is that there's been 3 different lawsuits, and I've got an article that I'm going to talk about tomorrow that talks about the third lawsuit and the judge of the District of Columbia. But basically, there was some notifications put out by the DOL that would be a final rule versus a wage rule, where they're looking to potentially even fast track this before the Biden administration goes into office, which to rescind that would be a pretty hefty amount of work involved. So the
Right,
wage rule, what's happened is that it's temporary. Anything from that October 8th to now, and as we move forward, is back to the previous wage level. But they're still working. They, meaning the Trump administration, is still working on increasing that wage level before that January 20th, 2021 inauguration,
mm,
which is scary. It just shows that they're still trying to throw punches at high skilled
right,
immigrants, right?
right.
And that's what scares me when you look at the whole 1044, and it requiring the 2/3 majority if it were to go to the House floor. But yeah, I mean, I think the first year is going to be very telling in what will be to come. A lot of people in my circles feel the same way as you do, that it's going to be better for the temporary
Yeah,
foreign worker for the H-1B visa. But again, I go back to the Obama administration era, those 8 years. Hey, guess what? That's during the time you came to the
yeah,
US, right?
yeah, yeah.
They were okay, but they weren't great for the H1B. They were good for the student and the H4 EAD and making some of those things happen.
Right, right.
But
And there was no sense of urgency. That there was a lack of urgency, right? Even during the Obama administration.
mhm,
um, and I think with the past 4 years of Trump administration, I really hope like they look at it from that as this as an urgent issue, not just
mhm,
because like like if you look at all the kind of attacks that's happening at the H1B visa at the high level during this administration. I mean, at least one lesson that we should be taking is that this is something that is very crucial to the strength of the U.S. economy, and that's something that should be a priority for the any administration that's coming in, especially the next administration. So I hope
yep,
they will, really act on the urgency, because I know that we have other issues as well, like DACA, the Dreamers, and they
mhm,
have all these other issues, and I think I felt like at some they're treating these two issues as like the same,
mhm,
which is a bit unfair to the skilled immigrants, right?
mhm.
Um, and like yeah, so I think everyone should be treated equally, so yeah.
And I think that's honestly why this channel and this platform and what I talk about has had the growth that it has. Is that one, once the election results started to come in, we knew there was going to be a transition period, and
Right,
two, I've talked about, the Trump administration had a missed opportunity. In 2016, he talked about a merit-based system.
right.
2017, we saw it hit the Senate, but then we never saw it go past that. And I will continue to champion and talk about a merit-based point
Yeah, I'm
system as
absolutely
long as I'm doing this channel, and until we have a system like that in place.
right.
And I think, you look at when we look back on it, to me, that was a missed opportunity to rewrite the innovation future here in this country.
Exactly. So
And
they could have actually taken credit to the whole thing, right? Because if they had like a
exactly.
merit-based system, like these other countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, they
And the
could have
UK just
actually,
went to 2 weeks ago. So,
yeah,
it's happening. You're exactly right. I mean,
yeah,
they could put a big stamp on it.
yeah, yeah.
So you found me first on YouTube and then reached out to me on Twitter. What was it about the H1B Guy platform that grabbed your interest and caused you to reach out to me? And I really appreciate that, by the way, too.
Sure,
So,
sure. Yeah, so I think what you're doing is like really valuable to the community for skilled immigrants, and right. And the reason is that I think till now, from my experience, the only kind of information that you have is kind of this herd communication where someone is sending you a WhatsApp message of what's going on, or like you find out things from forums, and it was really like crazy to the point where like people like me, I don't have time to keep stay on top of these things. So
mhm,
I just like get to know if there is something urgent going on or something like crazy going happening. But otherwise, like there is no platform or there is no medium to like have reliable, up to date news about the H1B visa rules and the regulations and stuff like that.
mhm,
And like the only option was your employer's attorney, who are not the most reachable people, right? So it's really a pain in the ass to get to them. So, or like you go to some independent attorney outside, which is often
mhm,
very expensive.
mhm,
So I think what you're doing, acting as like your bridge between the employer and
mhm.
and your immigration lawyer, is actually like a great benefit to people, because like I think we have seen so many comments here, right? So people are
Yeah,
asking the questions because really they don't have like a good source that they can really ask questions, and that is like up to date and like get a good feedback
yeah,
pretty soon. Yeah, so that was one thing I thought, that what you're doing is amazing, and it's a platform that really needs to grow, and I feel like this will be of great value, and I honestly feel like it has a great opportunity to grow as a amazing business that can
Hmm.
add value to people.
It's funny that you say that because there's some things that when you and I talked about that you've really kind of motivated me to consider further.
Right.
And one of the things we've been talking about, and I'm not there yet. I haven't. I'm not ready to launch it, but I'm working on it, and that's eventually looking at doing some sort of the H1B Guy podcast show.
Right.
And I've created the Anchor FM account. I
Yeah.
don't have
Okay.
a show name or anything
Okay.
like that,
Yeah.
but this is breaking news, right? I haven't talked about it for anything out. That's something that I'm planning for 2021.
Sure.
And the other thing that I'm really excited about is, and you mentioned this, is YouTube is picking me up in the analytics now.
Mhm.
It is promoting my content. I'm seeing that through my analytics and how people are finding me. And I look at what's happened, on this channel in the last 28 days, and I'm I don't want to say I'm surprised because when you put 100 videos on YouTube and the amount of time that I have, I'm being rewarded for that hard work. But I
Right.
think you said it best, which is I give an honest opinion, and it's my opinion. I'm not an attorney. Any advice
Right.
I give here on this channel is not legal advice. It's an
Right.
opinion. You
Right.
have to have a good immigration attorney, whether that's for you personally or your employer has a good immigration attorney that's responsive to you. You have to have that. That is a given. And anyone that I talk to, I want to know, do you like your immigration attorney? Do you trust them? If not, are you willing to pay for your own out of your own pocket so that you do have one that you trust?
Right.
Because the employer's attorney works for the employer. They do. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. There isn't. They are on retainer for the petitioner, not the beneficiary. And
Right.
so, I think that that's what's allowed the growth of this channel to happen. Honestly, I just wanted to educate people on the H1B visa. And then this thing became so much bigger than me because S386 was hotly debated in the Senate. I started reading into it. I was aware of this backlog. And as I realized that I want to fight for equality, I personally don't agree with 7% country caps. And so to me, that's, really what has continued to motivate and push me. And I'm glad YouTube's finally taken notice of that. And I'm just so excited. I mean, literally, I think I'm at 680 before we got on here subscribers, and I am going to keep pushing until I hit that 1,000, and then we're going to go until we get to 10,000. Because I
Right.
have a message that I want people to hear. It's not just about being a message for Indians. It's not just about being a message for Americans. It's about bridging the gap between the extreme sides, because there are two pretty extreme sides as it relates to temporary foreign workers and employment-based immigration.
Right. Right.
The solution to all of that comes back to merit.
Right.
And it just does. And
Right.
so, I think that as folks continue to find this channel, one of the things I want them to know is I'm going to continue to talk about merit, even if it's a pipe dream for the next 10 years. That's one thing that I am not going to stop fighting for, because what it does is it creates a better future for your 20-month-old, my kids who are in elementary school, and their kids, right?
Yep.
It just does. That is how it works, innovation and technology. So sorry
Exactly.
about my little rant right there.
No, no, and then you're exactly right. I mean, the whole of Silicon Valley, if you look at why Silicon Valley is so innovative, right? I mean, they have created the environment for people to come and exchange ideas and, talk about great things and build great products. So they have created that environment. On a larger scale, like what we need to do for America is that we need to create that environment again where, you create the opportunity for the best minds in the world to come inside America and like build whatever they want to build. And as a net effect, I mean, that's how you continue to be the most innovative country on the planet. And the rest of the structure is pretty good. We have a free market system. We have that infrastructure. We have freedom of speech. We have all those infrastructure and setup here. And America is the place to build things. Like Elon Musk said, right? Like he wouldn't have built Tesla if it was not for America. I mean, no other place in the world can foster this kind of a breakthrough innovation or like
Mhm.
a company like he had started. So
Yeah, I mean, I covered the CEO for Dropbox. His parents were immigrants in Kansas, of all places,
Right.
and you know he talked about that journey and everything he went through. So, well, I wanted to wrap up my question just by
Sure.
questions here, and then we'll get to the Q&A and uh, see where that goes because we've got several questions there. But what's next for you? What's next for Deepu Asok? What do you have lined up for 2021?
For 2021, I want to build on the existing, the side projects, the creative projects that I have. I really have sort of starting to build an audience there on Twitter. People are enjoying my work, so I will be focusing on that, and I'll also be focusing more on my career growth as well. So I plan to, sort of like move to the leadership side of things, on the management side of things. So I'm right now I'm still in the sort of the product development side. I'm a senior engineer right now, so I would like to explore the avenues on more and more like the product management side. So we'll see how it goes, but that's what's next for 2021. I'm pretty optimistic. Yeah.
That's exciting, man. Just so much to look forward to. I think things have definitely changed. There's been this shift here, and an opportunity for you in medical innovation to really to continue to not only expand professionally, but then these side things that you have going on. I
Yeah.
mean, the Visual Wisdom 108,
Yeah.
a couple of thousand followers on that account. Your personal account, the same thing. So just really excited to see what you have in store, for those
Sure.
channels.
I'm actually also thinking, I'm talking to sort of like a publishing group right now to for a manuscript for my book. So I want to pen a book, and it's something around like the product development
Mm-hmm.
process side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So if things go well, that could also be something that would be good for 2021, that I can get my book out in 2021.
Yeah, I've got some things I'm trying to work putting more pen to paper here as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
In case it wasn't obvious, I mean, I think merit is the big elephant in the room for me to talk about and put kind of the same thing. So I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna hold you accountable for it in 2021, and I'm gonna
Sure.
ask you to do the same, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
how these things work. Is that you have to have people in your life in your circle that hold you accountable for
Yep.
certain things, and so man, I thank you for being so genuine here in your answers and sharing an insight into your life, the H1B life here in the U.S., what it's like to immigrate here, that OPT to H1B journey, being an innovative engineer in the medical space, just all of that I find so interesting and just so appreciative. Wanted to ask anyone who's on the stream now, we're going to go ahead and move over to the Q&A portion. We've got a bunch to get through, but definitely go ahead and throw those in the chat. We're going to just reel off as many as we have here over the next 15, 20, 30 minutes or however long they go here. Wanted to thank all of you who have taken the time to join us. If you haven't already, please like this video. If you're not subscribed to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, going to ask you to subscribe. Deepu, this Samir is a huge follower here of the channel. I've called him my good luck charm. This is always repetitive, but I'm always going to say it. He found me about 6 weeks ago, and that's right when the explosion in the channel really started, right around election time. And he hasn't missed a live stream or anything I've done since then. And he missed the notification last time, so that's what this comment is
Okay.
here. So Ishan is asking, is there any change to 386 1044 would still be attached to the omnibus bill, or is it already dead? Not sure how much to trust Greg Siskin. And then Abhishek, HR 1044 is still on. It looks almost gone. And then one more, and then I want to pause. And so Ishan says, the only person who said that it's off the table is Greg, and I take that with a grain of salt. Not sure what's happening behind the scenes. I mean, I think one of the things that we've talked about here on this channel is what the options were once S386 had unanimous consent from the Senate. And what we knew is that there were some amendments added and made sections 8 and 9 vulnerable, quite honestly, to objection. And so that's what we're seeing at play here. And it's unfortunate because the two options were for it to go through conference committee and then be called back to the House floor before the House wrapped up. With the extension of last Tuesday through tomorrow, there's still a possibility. There's also still a possibility that the House could extend again until 12/31, although not likely. The biggest thing right now is the omnibus, right? You're talking about financials, okay? And nothing moves forward without financial approval, and that's generally what the omnibus is. There is some precedent that has been set for immigration law reform to be included in the omnibus. I believe that was 2004, and President George W. Bush signed that into law. But it generally isn't very common because omnibus comes from financials. Immigration law comes out of judicials, completely different committees. And so that is the challenge when you look at attaching something to the omnibus as it relates to immigration. So a couple of weeks ago, I was excited. I was excited because really S386 hit the Senate floor and passed unanimous consent kind of out of nowhere. And 24 hours of excitement allowed me then, as I kind of began to dissect it, to realize, hey, these are the avenues that have to happen. And as you've seen the messaging that started to happen with the folks speaking out on it, and you've seen a lot of delay. Now, granted, there are a lot of folks behind the scenes that are probably aware of what's going on, and they're doing everything they can. Everyone out there on Twitter that's been, doing all the retweets, all the hashtags, reaching out and calling these reps is important to the process. But as Abhishek says here, it's too optimistic since we just have one day until tomorrow. Yes, that time is ticking. Now, does that mean it could go to the House floor at 5:45 tomorrow? Possibly, but what's more important right now? And that's the omnibus. And the interesting thing about Siskin is he reported earlier in the week S3599, which is the MD green card, the overages, the surplus being assigned to MDs and RNs, the medical clause, if you will. I've covered S3599 a good bit here on this channel. That was pulled completely as well. So it doesn't look like they're looking to have any immigration tied to the omnibus. Does that mean that this is dead? No, we still have until tomorrow. And this could ultimately be the Trump administration's feather in its immigration cap, like we referred to Merrick could have been. Or this could be the ultimate middle finger to every temporary immigrant out there as well. That this thing passes at the end of the day tomorrow, or they extend till 12/31 and come back after Christmas. I don't know. I want to be optimistic and hold hope, because if this thing dies this year, then you're looking at May, June 2021 or further, as this thing would have to work its way back through new law, new sponsors, new committees, and really it would just be a really long process. And so, Deepu, here's what Ashan says. I've been spiraling since I saw this tweet. Any chance they might vote on it today? And gosh, I mean, you still got 2 or 3 hours for them to vote on it. I don't know. What do you think? Where are you on this, Deepu? What's your gut telling you? Is this all just a big game, and that at the end of the day, this thing's going to die in 2021, and all this hope and effort is down the toilet? What do you think?
I'm not an expert on this, but I like someone was saying, like, it's just like 1 day left, right, for the the final timeline.
Yeah,
But
here you go. Abhishek says
yeah,
it looks too optimistic since we just have 1 day tomorrow, right?
right. And with all the comments going on, I agree with him. I agree with Abhishek that it's a little bit too optimistic for like a 1 day time frame, but hopefully, like, I think they'll pick it back up in 2021 if nothing happens in the next 1 day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, it's really about the next 4 year time window, and again, like a sense of urgency. So if and I think that's also an indicator to look at, like if they are really trying to pull it as early as first quarter or like second quarter of 2021, that means that they're showing some seriousness. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to make something happen. If not, if they're still dragging this, then it's like it's not good.
So I did two videos. One talked about, why did Senator Rick Scott object to S386? And the answer, watch the video, but I'm going to go ahead and spoil it, which is it was a political favor. He was jockeying to be, kind of number two in the Republican side for the Senate, potentially leading a committee. In his language, when, it was at unanimous consent, Senator Durbin and Lee worked together, and then you had the Rosetta Stone amendment, the language amendment, if you will, and said he needed to consult with the White House is very telling. And so then you have this consent that happens here recently with the Communist Party affiliation and Army clause. And it goes back to the number one question I was getting for literally 6 weeks is, will S386 pass? And my answer was no. But I was proved wrong. It did pass unanimous consent in the Senate. The disclaimer now seems to be, with those amendments, will it get back out of the House? And honestly, that's anyone who has that answer, is a lot smarter than me or a lot more connected than I am. I just pontificate on it, to be honest. So Samir says, today's weather in my cities exactly reflect the current condition of my mind due to what's happening with HR 1044. How sad that only a particular person adding something can stop a bill that has passed both the House and Senate. I'm going to share a little something about Samir. So I've referred to this grassroots effort for the Dalka kids you were talking about earlier, Deepu. And Samir, I think yesterday or the day before, called probably 10 or 12 reps to express his support for this. He has kids that are Dalka. And while they're not impacted right now, they, in the next 10 years could age out. And I think it creates this anxiety as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long do I allow my kids to continue to live and assimilate here if they're not going to be accepted and can't stay here past 21? And that's just such a tough problem as a parent, to wrestle with. And that's why I throw my support behind a DALCA reform. It's something that I personally think, there's this gap. Even if 1044 were to become law here, there's still a 2-year gap. So
again, all these kids are like, all these brilliant kids have been like educated in the system here. They have huge potential to contribute to the country and the economy. And really, it's unfortunate that they're like treating it this way.
Yep. So Abhishek says, I think nothing big has passed for the last 30 years in the House, so we can only keep hope. Truth is different, on the ground, and he doesn't trust the reporting. And, this is true that most immigration lawyers have not supported this bill. There are a couple of out there that are, and they've been pretty vocal about it, the ones that are in support of it. Listen, the H1B cycle breaks over a 10-year period with the passing of this bill, this becoming law. And when you look at what that means, that's a lot of revenue dollars for USCIS.
Right.
It's a lot of revenue dollars for the immigration attorneys. I mean, listen, this isn't meant to be offensive to them. I'm a fee-based consultant, so are they. And when you lose that opportunity of revenue because these 3-year extensions or amendments are no longer necessary, of course you're going to fight against that. Just doesn't matter if you personally agree with it or disagree with it or not. That's your livelihood.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see them taking that stance. So, and they spent the money on the lobbyists too, which is crazy. You see that information's all public. It's out there. So, Samir says, I wish you get noticed by the mainstream media someday. Best of luck in the podcast initiative. So we're going to work on that. No promises that it's out in January. I'm still working on how to do it and what the format would look like. And listen, I just want to make sure that any content I put out is valuable and quality. I know a lot of my videos that I'm doing right now, they're long form, raw. I'm working on setting up some other things and trying to tighten it up, but I'm I'm an amateur. I'm learning as I go here. So, excuse me. So this is it. Yeah, exactly. He definitely just is trying to provide the info as best he can. There's no doubt about that. The main problem is exactly Senator Rick Scott that puts in a clause that we knew would be objectionable as an amendment back to the House. This bill previously passed the House 365 to 65. So you had way more than the 2/3 majority that would have been needed for it to go into law. We'll see if it gets to the floor or not. Time's ticking. So hey, Samir, said to you, Deepu, best of luck. Proud of people like you who follow their passion.
Yeah, thanks, Amir.
This sure looks like a game, Abhishek. Yeah, I mean, I think, as he said, everyone agree that this is discrimination, but not willing to pass a bill. And one interesting point, that they are, bringing people through asylum who and their family got suffered in other places, but they want to do about the suffering and the families who are here. I mean, I think that's the thing a lot of people have been asking is that I've been a tax-paying resident living and working in this country for 10, 15. I mean, the EB2 final action date for December was October 1st, 2009.
Right. Yeah.
11 years.
Yeah.
EB2, the most popular category. So, and then you look at, I've combed through this I-140 approval data from 2009 to 2019, and you look at the total number of approvals, and then you look at, you're talking about in that 10-year period, right? So if we're talking about October 1st, 2009, we'll just say, kind of using that 10-year period, there were almost 500,000 Indian nationals with an approved EB preference. And I'd say, of that, let's say 70% are in the EB2 category. Right. That's a really long line, Deepu.
Yeah. It is.
So it's like a slave master's being paid for losing their slave. Yeah, I mean, I hate the term racist. I don't like using the term slave, but there is definitely a modern day indentured servitude to it. There's no denying the cycle. If you decide to leave your employer, there's a lot of consequences that can happen around that for you. And, that's what we've talked about a lot on this channel, Deepu, is advanced parole, an EAD with advanced parole.
Right.
I've referred to it as the H1B EAD. I've seen it referred to as the I-140 EAD, where I've basically said that folks that have been working in H1B for at least 6 years that have an approved I-140 should be given this advanced parole EAD because it gives you freedom to choose your employer, freedom to choose how much you're paid.
Yeah.
And freedom of travel. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't realize that's missing in this whole component, No doubt AILA's got a lot to lose in that, but that's why they have, they're very well funded and they're very well organized and their message is uniform. They know what they're doing and there's a lot to learn from how they approach politics and lobby for what they believe in. So take note, power in money and power in numbers. So, Charu says, can foreign lobbies influence the outcome? I think we've seen that at play for many years. There's ways to do so, but funding has to come from U.S.-based entities. But there's still ways for that to happen. I'm not a political pundit, and I don't really know how lobbyist dollars work, but I think this is constantly happening. I don't know. Any thoughts on that one? That's a pretty tough political question right there. But money is important when we talk about politics. I talk about it all the time. There's power in numbers, meaning dollar signs and people. Enough people show up to protest something, the news shows up and reports on it, right? And we've seen that through a lot of the S386 protests and some of the others. So, Abhishek says he downgraded to EB3 to get his EAD. How is HR 1044 EAD different from that? I was thinking whether my decision is correct or not. I mean, you and, several thousand other people I know that when they saw that filing date on that October bulletin, this was something they wrestled with and debated for weeks on what's the right thing to do. And I advise, listen, if you're with the same employer and you're going to stay with that employer, there's no risk in this. But I don't think that this is the wrong move because your filing date is still considered current, right? I'm assuming that your immigration attorney filed your I-140 and your I-485 in conjunction, right? The adjustment of status. So 12 months from the date of that filing is when you should expect to have some sort of notification, sometimes 9, but generally 12. So let's count if HR 1044 were to become law, you're talking about October 21st, 2022 before the transition would begin. And if you're in that, 14, 15 priority date year, you've got to start adding those years. So first in line right now is October 1st, 2009, if we're just going by what's current. And then you just start adding years to that. So what's going to be really interesting for me, Deepu, and one of the things I'm really watching are the visa bulletins over January and February and even March. I think they're going to be very telling as the transition to the 46th president happens. My visa prediction bulletin videos that I've been doing, the H1B Guy forecast, have been extremely popular because everybody's looking for something on these and trying to read between the lines. We've seen these inchings 2-3 months at a time, other than October, which was an anomaly. And so, a lot of folks that I talked about, hey, let's see what November looks like, and then no movement, we're going, man, did I make a mistake or not? So, Abhishek, I don't think you made a mistake on it. Go for it when you've got a chance. Deepu, do you know anyone who was within that filing date for EB3?
No, but I know a lot of people who are debating that, but I don't know anyone who had made the switch.
Yeah. So as Sean says, EAD is probably valid for 1 to 2 years with extensions possible. S386 allows you to file early with 2 years renewable. Right. So that's just the way that the AP combo works and travel. So good insight there from Ishan. Thanks for sharing that. And it is all about the money. And honestly, Indians do have a lot of it, right? As Chili Gaming says, most of us who've been here for a decade have a net worth of over $1 million easy. Biggest problem is lack of unity among Indians. That's always been a problem. One org, Immigration Voice, raised over close to 500,000 in less than a week. If all these orgs stop infighting, unite for a cause, it will pass in 3 months. Yeah, I mean, Emmy Voice has done very well with their campaigning. I will tell you that some of their tactics I not necessarily a fan of, but they have been very, very good at this cause. They have unified a lot. I mean, they have like almost 30,000 followers on Twitter. And I know a lot of people that support their cause, but they're right. I'm aware of a couple of other organizations, and unfortunately there's some infighting there. But listen, that's because that happens no matter what. And this is such an emotional subject, right? But the point is unity is definitely key. Indian Americans as a whole, very financially conservative, meaning Indians that have been here working on H1B. That's what I'm referring to when I say Indian Americans, because you've assimilated into this environment. You've been here for 10 plus years. You've acquired a lot of assets, and your net worth is a lot more than a lot of the average American, middle class average Americans. And so, listen, that's why you've seen that investor visa become very popular over the last few years, and Indians with those the $1 million plus to invest, trying to get those kind of visas, because this is a long game that you're playing. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like much is going to change. But their tactics worked. Yeah, I mean, I think their tactics did work. You're exactly right. I don't debate that. But they did get it this close, and there's no doubt. I'm not saying not to support their cause at all. You have to. They are organized. Their message is clear, and they've rallied 30,000 people on Twitter. I mean, that's pretty strong, Deepu. I don't know if you keep up with these guys or not, but to me, it's just you've got to be careful in how you go about approaching U.S. senators, and listen, there's a right and a wrong way to go about that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and listen, it's not over. You still got a day plus to go. Yeah, as Sean says, still alive. It is still alive because guess what? The house is not closed until tomorrow, and there is so much scrambling going on and trying to make things happen. And that's why you can't let up in calling these reps. You can't let up in Twitter. I haven't looked, but I have to think HR 1044 is trending on Twitter right now. Deepu, I don't know if you checked earlier today or not. I haven't looked, but I would have to think that it's absolutely trending on Twitter. So that's where it's at. Twitter is where you take the fight because they don't like to be called out. It's bad customer service.
Yeah.
But there's a right and a wrong way to do it, and you just got to be careful. And when you call or when you write letters, you got to make sure that your message is concise and clear. But don't be afraid to call and talk to the staff and voice your opinion. That's how American politics works. So. Deepu, that's all the questions we've got in the stream. I'm sure some more will pop in here as I kind of wrap up. But I just wanted to ask everyone. We've had well over 20 in the stream here. Here's something from Chetan. Chetan's a regular here. S386 should add preferences for EB2 and IW to separate doctors and scientists from IT until then. As a backlog person, not will be neutral on it. Yeah, I mean, I think you're talking about those natural interest waivers. We've covered that a good bit. They're completely separate from the standard, but they still fall into these same numbers. The issue is the country of origin, even on the NIW, right? And so it doesn't mean that there isn't different avenues for it. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot involved to get the NIW. We talked about that and that path with Dr. Oscar Cabresis and how he went about doing it. But being published is a big part of that, and the researchers and the scientists around it, but the medical professionals, which is a good time for me to announce. So I had you from Pfizer on this week. Next Wednesday on the 23rd, if I could stress to all of you out there watching right now, to you, Deepu, I'm going to have Dr. Raj on, Dr. Raj Karnatak. And Dr. Raj is an infectious disease medical doctor who's been battling the front lines of this pandemic in Milwaukee. He's going to be on next Wednesday, and we are going to talk about infectious disease, fighting a global pandemic, and we're going to get into the vaccine as well. So I advise everyone who's interested in that to tune in. Dr. Raj has been in the U.S. working on an H1B since 2011, so since as long as you've been here in the U.S. as well. And so another really interesting conversation, another immigrant story of 10 plus years in the U.S., but still on H1B. And so, I'm really excited to tell that story. How much time left on S386? I mean, tomorrow, as of right now, right? That's the way it looks. And create separate queues within the 7% queue. Genius. Yeah, let's just get rid of the 7% altogether and quit discriminating on country of origin. And let's get to a merit system that's based on points that awards skill, right? I guess I can only dream on that. But Deepu, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to join the H1B guy and come on this channel telling your story. I just really appreciate it, man.
No, thank you so much, Robert, for this opportunity. I wish you all the best for the 2021, whatever projects that you have planned for 2021, and also the podcast. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm working on a new show for the channel as well. That's going to be a monthly show. Because what I want to do is, listen, I want to bring stuff to you guys that you're interested in, but I also want to talk about things that I'm interested in, which is data, which is migration, which is employment. And there are some of you on this channel who may not be interested in that, but I'm still going to do it because I'm interested in doing it and documenting it for this point in time in history.
Sure.
And so, I'm just going to be me. And I think that's why I've built the fan base that I have, Deepu, is that
Yeah.
that's all I know is just be Robert and let it go. And, it's that's what keeps me real. So, hey, I say remove 7% country cap and add preferences for EB2 NIW. Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt reform is necessary, and we could sit here and quarterback all of this. So, Ivo, I'm just going to grab this question, then I'm going to do my sponsor copy read, and we'll wrap it up. But
Sure.
Ganesh, I have got the approval for the Form I-120 from February 2021. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to travel as I'm waiting for visa stamping. Will there be any impact on my visa process? I'm not sure. I mean, it sounds like I'm going to imagine he's probably currently in India. And from my understanding, getting these appointments has been pretty challenging unless you're able to request expedited processing. So Ganesh, I'm not sure which consulate you're looking at, but the consulates are pretty active on Twitter in terms of responding back. So if you're not getting anywhere, you can't find your answers, feel free. I would tag the consulate on Twitter if you have a Twitter account and ask them this question. But it sounds like to me you're going to have to get an appointment and make sure you've got updated documents because everything that's happened between last February and now is a very significant change in the way visas are being processed and the appointment process. So good luck with that. You can email me or message me on Twitter if I can help you any further. The H1B Guy at gmail.com, of course, at the H1B Guy on Twitter. I wanted to just let everyone know that I'm going to put all of Deepu's contents and contacts. They're already in the description of this video. His Twitter profiles, his LinkedIn profile, his website. So check all of those out. Connect with him, follow him. Definitely not going to make a mistake in doing that. So I wanted to remind everyone that today's stream is brought to you by RecruiterNetworks.com, the smart solution for digital perm ads since 2001. This national job board network provides recruitment websites in 1,024 major metro U.S. areas. Each local job board is its own portal and is a low-cost resource for immigration recruitment ads for all industries and professions at a flat price of $225 per ad, regardless of which city you choose. RecruiterNetworks.com has been the #1 place for immigration attorneys, immigration ad agencies, and employers to meet the DOL requirements for the digital portion of the perm advertisement rules. RecruiterNetworks.com. Tell them the H1B guy sent you. If you haven't checked out the video that I did with Richard, I did a live stream with him last Wednesday. I'll share that in the description where it was H1B Guy Live Presents. Tomorrow, check back on this channel. We got a lot of news to cover. So it'll be the H1B Guy news for the week ending December 18th, 2020. I am working on my 2021 predictions video, which will probably come out in the next couple of weeks. I had predicted today that the visa bulletin would be released, but it doesn't look like that unless it comes out later this afternoon. So maybe we'll see that tomorrow, which was my second prediction. And I'll do an H1B Guy grades, my predictions video once those come out. Deepu, I just want to say thanks one more time. Really appreciate it, and wanted to ask everyone who's still watching, if you haven't already, please like this video. Please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we go live, like this stream here today, or that I just post a new video on the channel. If you've made it this far, and there are a bunch of folks still watching, Deepu, so man, you brought in the crowd today, and S386 and HR 1044 being hot in the news just brought in the folks today. So really excited. We went well over 20 at one time today here.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for still watching. I really appreciate all of your support, and go follow Deepu on Twitter. Deepu, any parting shots?
No, nothing much to add, but I wish good luck to everyone, like we are all going through the same journey here, and it's really, important to stay optimistic in this journey.
Yep. Hope is quite a motivator, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it is.
amazing. It really is. And, we'll just leave it with this. I want to wish you a prosperous holidays and a prosperous 2021. I really appreciate you and everything you've done here today for the channel and telling your story. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Robert.
All right, guys. So this is going to wrap it up here today. As we always close out, the H1B guy, your global source for all